Chapter 261 Great Blood Spirit Arts. In the blink of an eye, the blood cloud behind him chased Han Li's streak of white light for over 50 kilometers. However, the distance between the two gradually shrank to about 30 meters. As Han Li inwardly complained without end, Wang Chan, who was chasing him on the blood cloud, was greatly amazed. Although the Great Blood Spirit Arts blood evasion technique did not dare to proclaim itself as the fastest among the 6 sects, its speed was certainly among the top 5 secret arts in all the sects, much faster than the top-grade flying magic tools. But even though he was using the complete strength of his flying evasion technique, he was unable to overtake Han Li's small boat by now. While this surprised Wang Chan, his desire to kill also grew stronger. Han Li knew that if this wild rush continued, in the time it took to make a cup of tea, he would likely be caught. He had to do something now. Thus, his hand touched his storage pouch, and a stack of elementary fireball talismans appeared in his hand. Without thinking much further, he madly threw them behind him and continued his wild rush forward. He immediately heard the sounds of explosion behind him. Han Li couldn't help but turn his head to look. He only saw the front of that vigorous, wild blood cloud. It seemed to have scattered from the explosions and appeared a bit thinner, faintly revealing the figure of the ghost spirit sect's young master. Han Li felt joy. Just as he wanted to throw out the rest of his talismans, inside the blood cloud, Wang Chan suddenly moved his hand. A green light flew straight toward Han Li and grew larger as it approached. This was Wang Chan's flying magic tool that he originally stepped on. With no better option, Han Li immediately threw them at the green pitchfork instead of towards the blood cloud. 20 to 30 fireballs exploded in rapid succession against the huge pitchfork covered in black chi. It tumbled several times in succession and was unable to further approach. But during this moment of interference, the blood cloud had once again returned to its original form, wildly dancing like a furious flame. At this moment, Wang Chan suddenly let out several sharp whistles to the sky. Following these heaven-piercing whistles, the blood cloud suddenly increased dramatically in size. In an instant, it nearly filled the entire sky. Its influence had actually become nearly omnipresent. Immediately after, the overflowing blood cloud increased its speed by several times. As if it were a violent tsunami rushing down a mountain, it arrived in front of the Divine Wind boat. Furthermore, with the sudden increase in speed, it surrounded and trapped Han Li in midair. Frightened, Han Li hastily stopped his Divine Wind boat from colliding with the blood cloud and took out a magic tool that appeared to be jet black, claw from his storage pouch. At this moment, that strange green pitchfork silently attacked from behind. Go! As if Han Li had eyes behind his head, he threw this magic tool behind him, releasing a deep roar. As he released it, this claw immediately turned several meters large and fiercely grabbed the attacking green pitchfork. The green pitchfork didn't give up without a fight, releasing several strands of black chi from its tip. An instant later, the huge claw was surrounded by twisting layers of black chi, unable to move in the slightest. When Han Li saw this, he performed a hand incantation, and black meter-long streaks emerged from the claw and rustled about, scattering the black chi that was holding it down and preventing the chi from taking shape. Not bad. Not bad. As expected, it isn't a common top-grade magic tool. It was actually able to easily break the yin spirit threads from the yin jade pitchfork. It seems that me personally taking action was not in vain. Wang Chan's voice erratically came from different locations within the blood cloud. At the same time, the green pitchfork hummed for a moment and then retreated into the blood cloud, disappearing without a trace. These were a pair of top-grade magic tools refined from Flood Dragon Claws, Black Dragon's Grasp. Having retrieved it, Han Li vigilantly looked in every direction. At this moment, the blood cloud had already covered the entire sky, obscuring even the slightest cracks. All he could smell from the air was the disgusting scent of bloodlust. If he didn't use his strength to carve out a path, he would be unable to escape. The moment Han Li thought this, he released the Black Dragon's grasp. But without waiting for him to finish, the blood cloud in front of him suddenly boiled. Then two blood-red monsters about 3 meters tall emerged. These two monsters had fangs, claws, a short horn, a sharp-pointed tail, and eyes that were a deep red just like Wang Chan's. Waving their sharp claws, they pounced towards Han Li. This was the first time Han Li saw monsters such as these. From their appearance, they seemed to be exactly like imps from folklore. However, Han Li still felt fear and hastily threw the black dragon's grasp towards them. With a single light grasp, the imp was completely broken, turning back into a blood cloud that returned to its source. Han Li felt a bit more at ease. They weren't hard to handle at all. But just as Han Li thought it would be a simple job, he could hear Wang Chan's mocking laugh from every direction. Hee. Your esteemed self, don't relax too early. Although my great blood spirit arts blood ghosts are extremely easy to dispatch, the show has just begun. Hearing these words, Han Li's heart sank. However, his heart was still firm and unyielding. He wouldn't let the opponent's words move him too easily. Regardless of the consequences, he revolved his magic tool and struck into the blood cloud. As a result, the black dragon's grasp stirred up the blood cloud and easily drilled into it. Han Li felt joy. But an instant later, the black dragon's grasp became lifeless and lost mobility as if it were on the verge of collapse. Han Li was greatly startled and hastily attempted to retrieve the magic tool with all his strength before he completely lost control. Fortunately, the black dragon's grasp was able to leave the blood cloud and flew back to his side. Yi. This magic tool of yours was actually able to somewhat endure my blood cloud's corruption. This young master wants it even more. Wang Chan lightly let out a sound of surprise before revealing unconcealed greed. At this moment, the blood cloud rumbled from every direction and blood ghosts began to crawl out one after another. They pounced, racing towards Han Li. Han Li wore a dazed expression and then brandished the black dragon's grasp in an overbearing manner, running into the blood ghosts and immediately ripping them apart, turning them back into blood clouds. When Han Li had killed over 100 blood ghosts and still saw there was a steady stream of blood ghosts being born from every direction, he let out a sigh. Sure enough, the circumstances seemed extremely terrible. These monsters were endless, much to his surprise. When he killed one, another would be born from the blood cloud. There were about 30 monsters at any one time. It seems that this ghost spirit sect young master wished to tire him to death in this place. With this thought, Han Li was naturally unwilling to continue. He patted his storage pouch with his hand and took out several stacks of elementary mid and high-grade talismans, about 70 or 80 in total. Then, in a single breath, he threw all of them to a single side of the blood cloud. Immediately after, fireballs, icicles and other such things showered out. Furthermore, Han Li personally cast several fire serpents closely behind the barrage. After previously seeing that a rapid succession of fireballs were able to somewhat scatter the blood clouds, Han Li had long committed it to heart. Now he was relying on these magic techniques to hopefully break open a path for him to escape. You sure know how to dream. Wang Chan darkly yelled with a deep voice. Han Li unexpectedly had so many talismans on hand, which truly exceeded his expectations. After all, aside from elementary high-grade talismans, other talismans weren't much used to Foundation establishment cultivators. However, although this ghost spirit sect cultivator was proud and arrogant, he truly didn't dare to allow his blood cloud to receive these magic techniques. After all, he only cultivated the great blood spirit arts to the second layer, so the cloud was unable to withstand such a great bombardment of magic techniques. As for magic tool attacks, because of the blood cloud's magic tool corruption properties, he wasn't particularly afraid of them. Following his shout, several black human skulls suddenly appeared in midair between the blood cloud and the barrage of magic techniques before simultaneously opening their mouths and spurting out puffs of black chi, immediately obstructing these magic techniques. After a burst of violent explosions, apart from the shaking of human skulls, the blood clouds behind them weren't disturbed in the slightest. Han Li's complexion darkened, and couldn't help looking in the other directions. But without waiting for him to act, black skulls had already appeared in the other directions of the blood cloud. At this moment, Wang Chan's cold chuckles could be heard. You believe there was an opportunity to take advantage of? Obediently become food for my blood ghosts. I truly wish to see the bloody scene as you are torn apart by my blood ghosts. Surely the scene will be bloody and extremely beautiful. I am getting a bit impatient to see it. Hearing this ghost spirit sex young master howled with laughter once more. His insanity was quite obvious. Madman. As Han Li controlled the black dragon's grasp to deal with the blood ghosts, he was anxiously thinking of a plan to respond, his forehead laced with cold sweat. At this moment, Han Li had already taken out a mid-grade spirit stone and held it in his hand, starting to replenish a bit of his magic power. After all, killing an unending stream of blood ghosts was quite difficult for an early Foundation establishment cultivator such as himself. Wang Chan was sitting cross-legged at the peak of the blood cloud, continuously using hand incantations to hasten the manifestation of blood ghosts. He was entirely free of worry. Although the magic power of this Yellow Maple Valley cultivator wasn't very high, the magic tools he had were truly strange yet exceptional. After this fight, there would be quite a few more fine magic tools to add to his pouch. He couldn't help but be slightly pleased with himself. The crazed bloodlust residing in his heart seemed to have been alleviated by no small amount. Suddenly a bang could be heard from within the blood cloud. A thick, dark red fog appeared. In an instant, Han Li's figure hid within the fog, which slowly started to spread. Not long after, it enveloped the blood ghosts and started to merge with the blood cloud. Wang Chan was greatly startled. But when he found that this dense, dark red fog merged with his own blood cloud and had been absorbed, he immediately calmed down. Although this dense fog had been continuously absorbed by the blood cloud, it hadn't decreased in the slightest. That dense dark red fog had caused the ghost spirit sex young master to be unable to see Han Li's actions at this moment. He grew greatly suspicious,